He's the prime cut passer from behind the meat counter. It's Fairway Frank. And introducing a 6'3 center who's a cut above the rest. Say hello to Audie Crooks.
Love is in the air here at Wells Fargo Arena. Join the Iowa Wild on February 14th for Love in the Wild Night and February 15th for Pink in the Rink. Get your tickets now at iowawild.com.
Jason Aldean, Full Throttle Tour 2025, powered by Patriot Mobile. When the lights come on. Friday, September 19th, Wells Fargo Arena. With Nate Smith. And Ray Lynn. Jason Aldean. On sale now at iowaeventcenter.com. Jason Aldean live.
Two guys, two Chris's, one network. Iowa Everywhere. It's time for Two Guys with Chris Williams and Chris Hassel. Presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery from the Channel Seed Studios. Where? Everywhere. Live and always on demand at Iowa Everywhere.
What is up? Welcome to Two Guys. We are 3 time zones away.
Well, are you Mountain Time Zone or Pacific Time Zone?
I'm Mountain.
Right
It's
now?
super confusing.
Yeah, because it changes in Arizona.
Yeah.
They don't move, but sometimes it's Pacific, sometimes it's Mountain. So we're only 2 time zones away. It's 9:30 where I'm at. It's 7:30 where you're at. 8:30 where Van Woke is plugged up in his little mountain home, his little hole. And Van Woke, nice sweatshirt, nice Two Guys sweatshirt.
Nice hoodie, brother. Lonely Oak Distillery. Shout out to our friends at Steeple Ridge. I love that. They don't got
Iowa
the
Everywhere bottle is getting low. I got to fill that thing back up.
They don't got. Well, question on that. Do we want to do like a real Iowa Everywhere bottle of bourbon that will like sell in stores, like in Fairways?
Ooh, hell yeah!
I think
Why would
it'd
I
be
say
really
no
cool.
to that?
I think
do
we
it.
just put Aiden's face on the front.
Why Aiden's face?
The one guy who doesn't drink.
That's good. I like
That's the
that.
NA. That's the NA whiskey.
Yeah.
Williams, you okay?
Anyways.
I mean, it's early there. I mean, this
It
is
is
early for
early.
me. I usually get up 45 minutes before our show starts, and
great.
so I usually have morning face, morning voice. You have a voice today,
Well, here's the.
but it's not much of one.
So I went to Arizona, like at the tail end of a cold. Okay, like probably like, like your last day of the cold where everything's just kind of like funneling out, and I more or less got there as I was like at the very end of it, and then I walk in and Keith Murphy's just handing me one beer after another, and I drank like a fish for 2 straight days, and. So what that does to the end of your, like, you're in bars, so you feel like you have to talk louder than you actually do.
Mm-hmm.
And my voice.
Well, you were
actually,
screaming during the game too.
I got pretty amped up during that game. I don't do that, and I
bet that was
this.
a really cool, fun, unique experience for you because you never get to do it anymore.
Yeah, and like I don't like sitting in the stands either. It's not like this deal that, but I really enjoyed it. I was with Kelderman.
Oh, yeah, I saw him come in and interact with you at the end of your little post on Cyclone Fanatic after the game.
And I'm sitting with Keith. Like, so it's very unique. Where not only do I never get to do it, but I'm sitting with this guy who means so much to me, who I've sat in a million press boxes with.
Mm-hmm.
And then his son, Colin, is an Arizona State student. So that made it fun because we're like talking shit the whole game, back and forth. And I had so much fun. The atmosphere in that game, for a game where Iowa State's going against a 2-5 team, right? It's not like you're not now in Fieldhouse, for God's sake. But it was just a blast. Like the Iowa State takeover of that place, like it was just a really cool experience. So, point being, my voice is shot.
Could
but
you
I
not
drove
see
to Tucson yesterday.
the basket on the other side of the court from these seats? You couldn't see the basket.
We needed to be at more of an angle. Yeah. You had to like lean over to see if the ball went in.
Oh,
and,
no.
And tell your friend Matt Barry, friend of the program, he may be listening. I hope he hears this.
Oh, yeah, he listens every show.
You guys have the shittiest basketball arena I've ever. It makes Carver Hawkeye look like the Taj Mahal.
Really?
Okay? Oh my God, this thing is it. You know what it reminded me of the Metrodome in its last years. Like, did you ever go to the Metro? You know those Hawkeye fans that got caught having sex there. Remember that?
Yeah. I was at that game.
So like when you go out to take a leak, like you can't even walk. Like.
Oh really? So it's more it's more the guts of the stadium that because the actual
Arizona State had a 32-inch TV in the middle of the arena. That's what they had.
What?
Like it looked like you.
That's
were
the jumbotron.
It looked like a 32-inch television.
Oh jeez.
But it was fun. The fans were awesome. Like Iowa State fans have had 2 run-ins now with Arizona State fans in the last like month and a half, and couldn't have been better. Like they're a good fit in this conference.
Good. What I do have to ask you because you were talking it up all last week that you were gonna Airbnb and a teepee, Air T&P, as all gas no breakfast said last week.
Yeah.
It looks like is that a teepee?
No, I'm at a Marriott.
What happened to the teepee?
So I did look into this, and the one I was gonna rent. The Wi-Fi, I just didn't trust it to be because I had to do Williams and Bloom because I am working now. Like the fun part is over. Like I am here for work, and I wasn't going to be able to do Williams and Bloom or this show with I just didn't trust it, and it was cool, and I definitely want to do that sometime. But I had to be able to work, and so I was milling around in the desert yesterday for about 4 or 5 hours. And I actually tested my 5G like hotspot speed and stuff to see if I would be able to do a live show. And there's just not enough juice out there to be doing these broadcasts.
Damn. So it's our fault because we had to have the show.
Well, you know,
you can stay in one tonight.
I'm not. No. Well, the game doesn't start until 8:30 local.
It's unfucking believable here. I mean, this game it's not going to start until 10:40. Where I'm at, 9:40.
You know why?
Why?
It's because of that golf thing that Barry's calling.
Are you shitting me?
No, I swear to God.
I thought they do those on Tuesday.
Yeah, well, they had the first 3 weeks, but this week they did move it around. I don't know why.
It bumped all the basketball back until that's over.
God.
Yeah, that's why.
Kenzo says, I'm shocked the Wi-Fi in the desert wasn't that good.
I know, Kenzo.
Couldn't you just channel your inner spirits there and have them
I did,
bless
man.
you with Wi-Fi?
I did.
Speaking of that, I'm really looking forward to overthinking today because I'm wondering how Scott is after another heartbreak for the Bills. I don't know anybody who isn't really that big of a sports fan like Scott, but that takes losing as hard as he does as a Bills fan. I mean, it's like he's going to show up he's going to be on that show, and you're going to think that the closest person to him in his life died last night.
Yeah. Do you remember I had him on that CW pod last year after they lost?
Yes.
And we just talked about how we just felt sorry for ourselves for 2 hours. And he was like literally in tears. Like,
I know.
And the problem with that game yesterday is, I mean, they just kept giving you hope, even when you thought that, like, you know, the injuries in the first half. Oh, man. Really interesting point here. We can start on the NFL. That's fine. So I get to, because I really did. I'll tell you about this later in the show, but I was exploring yesterday. I hiked, visited a couple of nice Indian reservations. Like I was really.
What did you do at the Indian reservations?
Just walked around, talked to people.
Talk to the people that live there?
Yeah.
Huh.
I love hearing about their lives. They love it when white dudes come in there and spend money at their shops and stuff. They think it's great. Yeah. So anyways, I I was literally on the top of a mountain when I looked at my phone for the first time, because I raked yesterday, by the way. Didn't lose a single bet. Completely raked on those games. And
Really?
I checked my phone, and I saw how bad the Commanders game had gotten. So I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to rush to get to my hotel. And I really didn't watch the Chiefs game until the second half, because I come back here, rush, got my show done with Bloom. Then I take an Uber to find some friends at a sports bar. It's really staggering, and I know you know this, Chris, but I feel the need to hammer this home with our audience, because we are so in our Iowa bubble where, like, we're going to talk college basketball for 75% of today's show, and that's what our audience wants. I'm at this random sports bar in Tucson, Arizona, zero rooting interest by anybody for either of these teams, and that place was locked on every play, and the entire fucking place was rooting for the Bills.
Yeah.
It was staggering to me to see how much this Chiefs hate has spread, right? Because if you go to Iowa, it's like still 75% of the people there are probably rooting for the Chiefs. Oh my God. Like, people were going crazy when they didn't give Allen that first down.
Well, and that's the problem, is it's going to get worse now because of how this game went and all the kind of toss-up calls that went in favor of the Chiefs and against the Bills. And I am not one to believe that there's any conspiracy. That's ridiculous. There's not. But for whatever reason, the Chiefs seem to get every 50-50 call in that game. And to be honest, some of them weren't even 50-50 calls. Like, the Bills got that first down.
Worthy catch. What?
Yeah. Again, I mean,
friend of the program, Brad G, right there. Listener.
Hey, there he is.
Yeah, I mean, when we have friends, I mean, Copley was on the field there for the game, friends with Brad.
It's Taylor Swift.
Oh, there's Taylor Swift just sucking face with Kelsey. And he did another thing that kind of pissed some people off when he was taunting a Bills player after a touchdown, and then they flagged the Bills player for it. I mean, it's like, come on. Like, there wasn't a play. All the talk going into the game was about Mahomes and those fake slides and flops and all that. We didn't get that, but we got everything else. And what that now gives us is a Super Bowl that people are not going to be happy about. The general public are not going to be happy about, because I saw a meme today. It was an AI photo of Hitler as the coach for the Chiefs and like Kim Jong-un as the coach of the Eagles. Like,
yeah,
there's not a side you can go at here. There's not a Buffalo Bills. There's not a Washington Commanders. There's not a feel-good story, because nobody's. Are you really gonna, because you hate the Chiefs, you're gonna root for the Eagles? No, Philadelphia. We've talked about, they've got the worst sports fans in the country.
Yes,
most annoying anyway.
I will root for the Chiefs in that game.
I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I'm not gonna say the ratings are gonna be bad for the game. The interest though.
Oh, I couldn't
is
agree
not
more.
good. It's disappointing.
Way better to have like Lions going up against.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how great of it.
And we just saw this game a couple of years ago for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, this sucks. I mean, this is all-time bummer as far as that goes.
Yeah, Adam says he's going to root for a meteor.
You got Cooper DeJean on the Eagles.
I forgot about
rooting
that.
interest.
But I don't feel, Matt, maybe I'm wrong, I don't feel like Iowa fans do that the way we do.
Some do.
I'm
not one of them that just.
I mean, you guys have had so many more players in the league where like we get like 3 and you just freak out. And I do feel like that's toning down a little bit. Like, I don't hang on every Breece Hall run like I did 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's not enough for me to be just openly rooting for the Eagles. And when the game comes around, maybe I will, just because I'm tired of the Chiefs. But I think What would be better for the NFL? The Eagles winning or the Chiefs going back to back to back?
I think the Chiefs keep this dynasty thing going
Probably.
Let
but
everybody.
There are some people that are going to be completely turned off by what's going on with the Chiefs
but
and
then
getting
they're
all
gonna
these
hate watch.
calls. And I think the majority of them will hate watch. But God, that was I going into the game. I was getting really annoyed by all the people online saying that it's rigged and there's a conspiracy. And again, I don't believe any of that, but God, now they have so much more to point to with the Chiefs getting all of those calls. I mean, I feel so bad for Bills fans.
I do too. Again, the worst part of that yesterday, it almost would have been better if they just would have got blown out.
Yeah, they're always so close. Whether it was, what we saw yesterday or the missed field goal that could have tied the game last time they played last year in the divisional round, or maybe the greatest game of all time in the divisional round 3 or 4 years ago when the Bills score to go up with 13 seconds to go and still somehow lose the game. Oh, man. It's too bad. I would have really liked to see the Bills and the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and I think the country would unite around the Bills.
Absolutely, they would have. And this is what we do, though, in sports. It's you build these guys up, and then you love to tear them down once they get there. We've seen this in every sport for a century. This is what Americans do. Well, it's so much easier to take aim at somebody or a group when they're having success. We all want the underdog. It's just how we are wired. And this, to me, is maybe one of the most uninteresting Super Bowls of my lifetime.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I will root for the Chiefs because I hate the Eagles that much.
What do you hate about the Eagles? Just because they kicked the Vikings' ass in the
Vikings history, and I hate their fans. I want their fans to feel pain. I mean, at this point, we all know what the Chiefs are. They're not going to change. It is what it is. I would rather just my friends and the local-ish team do okay. Maybe that makes me an idiot when it comes to, I don't know. I just hate the Eagles. If it was the Commanders, I'd probably be the other way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's interesting. And that Dan Snyder stuff from over the weekend, it's God, what a bad guy.
I will say this. I'm excited to watch Saquon Barkley on that stage.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
That guy is just a blast to watch.
He's a good story.
Yeah, that's your story for the Eagles.
Yeah, he's a good story.
And just one of the most exciting players that we've ever seen in the NFL. I mean, his propensity to break off 60-plus yard touchdowns is insane. We've never seen this many in one season, and he's doing it every game.
You know what's interesting to me? So I'm also sitting next to a Chiefs fan during the tail end of this game, and this guy's an Iowa State fan, and he's indifferent.
What?
He's indifferent
about the game
because he basically was just I've seen this so much. It's he's I actually wouldn't hate. I know it's crazy. But and I don't think that represents most NFL football fans in there, but it was still just bizarre. This Chiefs thing is just wild. But anyways, I will root for the Chiefs because I have so many friends and family. My father-in-law is a Chiefs fan. I don't want them to. If it comes down to them and the Eagles, I will root for the Chiefs. But I don't think I do think I'm the minority though. I saw Matt Van Winkle might be the single nicest human I've met in 40 years, and he was pissed last night. Matt's firing off tweets, angry about the officials. I think it comes back to that Super Bowl last year. I think there's maybe a little bit of freshness in that wound.
Oh, absolutely.
Are you okay, Matt?
I've calmed down a little bit after last night, but after those, man, After those calls, after the fourth down call really pissed me off. It really did.
You can go back and you can look. He might have gotten the first down on third down.
Yeah.
But one thing go ahead.
In the past that should have been caught, that he heaved up and Kincaid should have caught. Oh, brutal.
One thing I did like that I saw from the Chiefs is they said, fuck it, we're going to stop the tush push. Like, no excuses, we're going to stop it. They did. They stopped it several times in this game. And this was on the heels of the Eagles game, which, I mean, they run that thing more than anybody, and nobody can stop it. And then you have all these people saying it needs to be outlawed. I think you just have to stop it. Like, the Chiefs did it. The Chiefs were able to do that to a point. You could argue, yes, that should have been a first down. But for the most part, they stopped the tush push from Josh Allen. And I just think there should be no excuses on that. You don't outlaw it. You just have to stop it.
It was a great game. Regardless, we got a lot of college basketball to get to. Want to thank our presenting sponsor, Fareway Meat and Grocery.
Fareway Meat and Grocery. Fareway, come eat our meat. Fareway, come our way.
It's pretty good. Did you just do that off the top of your head?
I mean,
it's like downtown remix there.
Yeah, it was kind of downtown
remix.
Downtown.
Waiting for you.
That's an old Seinfeld pull.
Downtown.
Downtown. We're also in the Channel Seed Studios. I'm speaking to a bunch of wet coughs. I'm speaking to a bunch of seedsmen in February. You want to come up and meet all the seedsmen with me?
Oh, those seedsmen.
Maddie, you can come. It's on the 25th if you want to come with me.
What do you speak to the seedsmen about?
About helping them, because these guys are all out there, and gals are all out there with their own individual businesses selling Channel Seed, and we're going to help them with their branding and marketing and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. That's coming up. I love shaking the hands of the seedsmen.
I just saw
you came to that event with me last year, Matt, but we just drank with them last year. This year I'm actually
Channel
part
Seed
of it.
Fest. Oh
yeah.
my god, that was
well,
I just saw
Channel Fest was the big concert out of Fouches.
Blackhawk, yes.
Yeah, Blackhawk. Yeah. Iowa State rolls, but it wasn't easy.
Rolls?
It wasn't easy.
Come on now. What are you talking about? You can't frame it like that. They did not roll.
They did not roll. You are correct. Curtis Jones did, though. One of the great games we've ever seen out of an Iowa Stater. 33 points. Just circus shots out there. Like it was. I mean, he kept them in the game. Between the crowd and Curtis Jones, those were the two reasons Iowa State was able to go on that 19-3 run to close out Arizona State. I mean, at the 4 and under, you're like, but the 4 and under it had already started to shift. 5-6 minutes to go in that game, it's very questionable. And then you look up at the scoreboard at the end and you win by 15. It was another one of these slow starts for the Cyclones, but they get it going. The most impressive thing to me about these Otzelberger teams, and then we could talk more about this specific group, but man, like when they need a stop and TJ calls a timeout and it's like you get your best defense ready, they usually get the stop. Like they really, like even Gilbert didn't play that well. I watched the game again last night. Locks down. And it was just unbelievable on defense for the final 5 minutes. And that was really a game you probably should have lost. I feel like we've said this about Iowa State a lot, but Chris, this is where you kind of separate the great teams from the good teams, where you still find a way to win even when you don't have your A game. And they have not had their A game offensively for quite some time.
Yeah. I just look, it's a great win. Again, showing their championship medal. But this has become a trend, and I wonder how concerning it is to Cyclone fans, because you've had 5 true road games, and you've been down in the second half of all these games. You were down at Iowa by 9. You were down at Colorado by 5. You were down at Texas Tech by 9 in the second half. West Virginia by 10 at one point late in that game, and that's obviously the one they lost. And then Arizona State by 7. How concerned are you that this is something that is a real trend? Now, I know you don't play tournament games on the road, but what's with the slow starts?
Listen, I think that it's kind of who they are, to be honest with you. Like, to me, like, they're kind of like a snowball going down a hill where they get stronger as the game goes on. I am concerned about it only
every
in the
game
sense
but
that,
West Virginia. Didn't happen against West Virginia.
And if you do that tonight, you're going to lose.
Yep.
Right? Like, if you do that tonight, you're going to lose. Do that next Monday in Allen Fieldhouse, you're going to lose. I guess the thing for me, Chris, is I really am not paying that close of attention to the Big 12 thing. I want to get a number 1 seed. That is my number 1 priority for this team, the way it is set up on January the 27th. We're going to look at the Big 12 odds here. Iowa State is no longer even close to being the favorite after Houston's big win in Allen Fieldhouse over the weekend. Iowa State could lose tonight in Allen Fieldhouse at Houston and still potentially be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Like, so to me, that's what I'm focused on. They are dribbling too much. The spacing is not great. They've got to get more help from Jones when it comes to the outside shooting, right? Like Jefferson, man, it would really help if
more help for Jones.
Yeah, I'm just talking about floor spacing. They got a real problem right now that when Heisey and Watson are out there, nobody's guarding them. And I promise you tonight,
Heisey did not even attempt a 3.
No, I promise you tonight, when either of those two guys are on the floor, Arizona will not defend them. Kansas next week will not defend those guys when they are on the floor. And what that does is it bunches up your offense and it makes life so much more difficult on your 3 guards in Jefferson. So I kind of think this might be who they are until they get Milan back. I don't know. But like Keyshawn's got to hit a shot, right? Like he hit one, but he still wasn't great. I didn't feel like.
He was in foul trouble. That was dedefinitely a hindrance in that game.
I think that and you nailed this 2 weeks ago, Chris. Like if he's a 0 on offense, which right now he is, we've seen him hit these shots, but he hasn't in a long time, right? Like I don't know if there's a great answer to it other than just you're more of a defensive team. You get to lock down when you need to, and you got to just be great in transition. Right? Like when Iowa State gets those live ball turnovers, there's not many teams in the country better than them at turning them into points. That's got to be more of their thing. I just don't think they're a great half-court team, and I don't think that they will be. They weren't even a great half-court team when they had 22. So if you can keep finding ways to win games when you're not on your A game like they've been able to do, that's a really good sign. I don't have a great feel on tonight. They've got a couple of 7-footers. Have you done a game here? Have you been here?
No, I've never been to what is it?
McHale Center.
McHale, yes. Yeah, no, I've always heard it's one of the best home environments in the country.
Yeah, my Uber driver last night was telling me that, and he's like a big Arizona fan, but he went to North Carolina, my Uber driver, so he's seen everything. Like he's seen ACC ball, and he was telling me like, yeah, man, like he goes, I don't know if we're top 5, but we're definitely top 10 as far as the home court arenas go. So I'm really looking for. Here's a hot take. I think Iowa State has a better chance to win at Allen Fieldhouse than they do tonight. What do you think about that?
Boy, I don't. I mean, I guess Kansas can go one of 2 ways here. After we'll get into their collapse in
There's
a minute.
Some familiarity there.
I don't feel good about tonight's game at all. What is it? A toss-up?
Yeah, it opened. Arizona State opened -1.5. It quickly jumped to Iowa State -1. I don't know where it is now. It's a trap.
Just looking at ESPN, Arizona's -2.5 as of right now.
Okay, so it swung way back in the other direction. All the pros are on Arizona here. Everybody's betting.
I'm on Arizona. That's that Arizona two-step, I guess. After you played that sort of game on Saturday, you needed 30-plus points from Jones. And look, I know they won by 15, but it was a 19-3 run at the end of that game. Stop it. A quick turnaround at a really tough place to play in Arizona, really this is like their statement game. This is their first like big time Big 12 game where they're going to try to announce their arrival. I think this is a hornet's nest that Iowa State's going to be walking into tonight.
To that note, and I realized this probably for the first time in my career on Saturday, I am not used to supporting teams that are like ranked in the top 5, right? So had Arizona State won that game, that would have been the second Saturday in a row Iowa State got the court charged on it. And there is a different – I've covered a lot of Iowa State road games, probably 50 of them in my life. And that was, like, to me, a different feel. Bobby Hurley was – like, you could tell everything was put into that game. Like you're saying – and it's just different when you're – they've been in the top 5 all year. Have they fallen out once? I mean, maybe right after that Auburn game, but they were right back in it. Like, so you're right. Like, it's a bad setup tonight. But I also think there's this caveat where we can all agree, even the biggest Cyclone haters in our comment section, this team's really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So like, it wouldn't shock me if
they're playing like a low-end 1 seed right now.
No doubt.
They're not Auburn. I don't know if they're Houston. God, Houston.
I think Houston, they're so good.
So you've got a path to a 1 seed, like you said, even without winning the Big 12, but it gets a little bit murky. And then is there going to be a difference? Like I haven't looked this far ahead as far as venues and all that. Is there going to be a difference between a top-end 1 seed and the last 1 seed in this field this year? And what's the path that Iowa State wants as far as venues in the tournament?
I mean,
because if you're not playing for a conference title, that's what you're playing for. We better pin this down.
I think if Iowa State gets a 1 or a 2 seed, Bloom did this last night. He has them down to Wichita and Milwaukee. So those would be pretty good draws.
Yep.
As far as the fans go.
Milwaukee better than Wichita.
Yes. Especially with the Otzelberger thing and just all of Iowa State's recruiting. And you've been there. Like, not that it matters with this particular team, but that would be my third NCAA tournament covering in Milwaukee, if that would be the case. It tells you how many times they've been there. So, I don't know. That's kind of what you're shooting for. I feel like it would have to be a pretty big blow up at this point, too. The other thing that we have to talk about here when you're going through this, and I haven't quite wrapped my mind around it yet because I'm so stuck on round robin Big 12, and I keep having to remind myself that this is so different. Yeah. And like, because it used to be when it was this 10 teams, like the 10th team really, like it was easy to make money in that league because you would just bet on the underdog every Saturday, bet on all the underdogs because the games are always in single digits. It is not the case anymore. Like the difference between the bottom of the league and the top of the league now is very stark. You know, like Iowa State's going to be a 16, 17-point favorite next weekend against Kansas State. Think about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, and you look at like Houston and Iowa State schedules the rest of the way. I mean, Iowa State has to go to Allen Fieldhouse, to Houston, and tonight at Arizona.
Yeah.
Could very well lose all three of those.
And the problem that they have now with Houston is, one, you're a game behind them. 2, Houston does not have to go to Ames. Iowa State has to go there.
Correct.
And
that's
Houston,
why the line completely shifted in Houston's favor after that win on Saturday. Yep.
And Houston's already won their game at Kansas. And, yeah, they've got some tough games. Like, they still have to go to Arizona. They still have to go to Texas Tech. They still have to go to Baylor. But Houston is clearly in the driver's seat for the regular season conference championship unless Iowa State can somehow steal that game in Houston.
On a similar note, Auburn had a nice win against Tennessee this weekend. Have you seen the rest of their schedule? I mean, that's another team Iowa State's going to be fighting with for a top seed. They've got
Auburn?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ranked games left on their schedule.
Are you talking about Auburn?
Auburn, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see how Auburn isn't a 1 seed.
I'm just saying they have a tough end of their schedule.
They do, but shit, they could lose 4 games and probably still be a 1 seed.
Yeah, that's the problem, Maddie, is like I think I mean the SEC seems to me like it's the best league. Like I don't
Yeah, it's not going to move you one way or
correct
if you lose one or two.
Their metrics are so good where I don't know. I mean, unless they collapse and lose like 7 games, I don't know if they would move. And the good thing is, well, as long as Iowa State doesn't totally screw something up, like lose one of those home games, right, where you're a 15-point favorite, like it won't impact them if they lose tonight. Like it'll be fine. Like it's another reason why like the polls are just bad anymore, because this Arizona team, if you guys listen to Cyclone Fanatic, I've been hyping them for like 3 weeks because the humans are so stupid when it comes to this stuff. They completely wrote off this Arizona team in November. Like they lost 4 games right off the bat, were all quad 1 losses by like 3 points. And everybody was just like, oh, they're not any good. No, they are. Like this team wasn't ranked going into they should be ranked today when the new poll comes out. This is a top 15 team that Iowa State's playing at tonight. There's no doubt in my mind. Every metric says it. If you watch the team, you see it. Anyways, that's a whole other podcast. I could do a entire CW pod on how shitty the polls are. We'll do that another time. Want to thank our sponsor, Freedom Tire.
Freedom, freedom, freedom. Tire.
How cold is it in Iowa right now, Matt?
Oh,
colder than 2 witches' titties dipped in freezing cold water.
Bondurant, 25 degrees. Nice little chill to the air. It's going to get up. You know, this week's going to be in the 50s, though. The high today is 47 degrees. So.
Wow.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Heat wave coming through. Well, actually, I had a good time to go to Freedom Tire. You get everything checked on because you know it's coming back. You know, like next week, it's going to be like -20, a blizzard, all that crap, and you don't want to have vehicle problems then. So Freedom Tire, not only can you buy your new tires from there, but they'll service your entire vehicle. And we're asking our audience to support them because they support us and make them your new official place to go and get your car serviced. How about that?
How about that?
How about that? Also want to thank our friends at the Iowa Event Center.
Iowa Event Center. No, it doesn't work.
We played that Jason Aldean pre-roll. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
I kind of forgot how many Aldean songs I kind of like.
Oh,
in a hick town.
Dude, there's 10 songs of his I love.
I've seen him 3 or 4 times and always have a really good time. My daughter Cameron is gonna freak out when she sees Nate Smith is opening for Aldean. She loves him.
What's he saying?
Up and comer.
He's an up and comer, and he did that duet with her. Her idol is Avril Lavigne.
Oh,
will you guys tell me this, Matt? You're you're a girl dad.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter is 9, and if I go to her playlist because we share it, everything's on the same Apple ID. It's full of Avril Lavigne and Alanis Morissette. I think my daughter's a little badass. Like I honestly, it's like
knowing Cammie, she's a thinker, so that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? She's kind of philosophical.
Yeah, you're gonna be in trouble when she hits 14, 15. Big trouble.
She's a well-rounded kid.
She's gonna go her own way.
Oh, she's already well on that way, brother. Like she's like, I'd rather that than some of this other crap these kids listen to. At least she's like listening. I don't know.
Like what would be something that you would not be happy about?
The kiddie pop crap, like the
okay pop.
You know what I'm saying? Like I like my daughter, like she's thinking about real shit when she's listening to music. I like that. Maybe a little bit too young for Alanis, I feel.
Is Alanis Morissette the one that sings, I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm
No,
a
that's a different
mother,
woman.
I'm a
She
sinner,
sings,
I'm a saint.
rain on your wedding day.
Yeah, Ironic is a great song.
Hey, if you want to go to this Aldean concert, you better get your tickets now. These are going to go fast. HighVTix.com.
And the reality here that nobody wants to talk about, but I will, is now that he's attached himself to Trump, like officially, it's been great for his brand. Like, because he doesn't give a shit if people like you like him, Matt. Aldean is all in on this, like, MAGA, America First thing. Like, and he will sell more tickets because of that. I promise you.
I heard
Like,
that
this will
Trump
be like,
got Colombia's president to send their plane to send Jason Aldean around to all of his different concerts throughout the country. The Colombian president's plane is going to be landing in Des Moines for this concert, September 19th.
Hey, speaking of Trump,
What?
so on All Access, actually coming up today, Chris Connolly and I are actually going to be interviewing the event manager at Capital One Arena, who just hosted Trump for his big rally after his inauguration. So he's a former Event Center employee. So we're gonna get a little inside scoop on.
that's actually really
Trump
interesting.
rally. Yeah.
How do you do that with like the secret social security, Secret Service?
Yes. Hey,
You know,
did you hear Trump was at Circa this weekend?
I saw that.
Oh, I saw a video of that. Yeah.
He was at the exact bar where you ripped my shirt off at like 2
Yeah.
o'clock in the
the
morning.
bar?
The exact same spot. Mega bar. God. Mackenzie,
Good stuff.
host of Overthinking, says she once fell asleep at a Jason Aldean concert. Man.
Try that in a small town, Mackenzie. Please.
Oh, shit. Okay. Iowa got a big basketball recruit. Hawks get the win against Penn State on
It's a
Friday night.
huge couple of days for Fran McCaffrey.
Big Penn State game watch down in Tempe. I'm not kidding. It turned into like
Really?
there was this Cyclone outing.
A hate watch?
Well, because these alumni clubs, you know, they have these get-togethers, and they had one in Tempe. I swing by it, and at the end of it, everybody's just drunk, and they turned this game on and was just rooting for Penn State. They were all very disappointed when the Hawkeyes pulled it out, Chris.
Iowa tried to blow it. I mean, Penn State had a good look at it, or at least they should have had a good shot at it at the end. Didn't get the shot off in time, missed it anyway. But Iowa snaps that 3-game losing skid. I mean, there wasn't not a lot to say. I mean, you had to have this win if you have any hope of keeping this thing alive. They've got a game tonight as well. How about that? Iowa's playing on Big Monday, Williams.
No shit. Are they really?
Yeah. Well, it's not really Big Monday. It's because it's not on ESPN.
I didn't know that. I'm so out of the loop right now. They play tonight?
Yeah, they play at Ohio State tonight. I don't.
God, the Big Ten TV structure
it's
is
everywhere.
so hard to follow.
Yeah, they'll play any day, anytime, anywhere.
7 Central, FS1.
Ohio State is 7.5-point favorite from what I'm seeing. This is a game Iowa needs it. You got to have a game like this. You got to have a win like this. Ohio State's not that good. I mean, shit. Iowa's ahead of them in the standings. Iowa's 4-5. Ohio State's 3-5. But it was another sparsely attended game. It was a little bit better than the whatever that was Tuesday game, but not much. I think it was 8,500, something to that effect.
Right around how many fans were in Tempe for Iowa State?
That was a pretty good comeback you had to my dad, who was trying to troll Iowa State and Iowa State fans.
The best thing about your dad, I truly love this about him, is he'll talk shit. Like his shit talking is elite. Okay. And then when he's like proven wrong or when it doesn't go his way, he'll just disappear for 48 hours. He doesn't give you the satisfaction of like getting him. He's just gone. You don't even hear from him.
Or he'll just say, so. So. But yeah, he was. You said there were more Iowa State fans in Tempe than Iowa fans that go to Carver for a Big Ten game, which I don't think is true. I think Iowa State probably had around 5,000 to 6,000 fans there.
I agree, 5 to 6.
Now I don't know about scan tickets at Carver, but the paid attendance around 8,500. I do have some attendance figures that I would like to highlight, because I've had a lot of people asking, well, how does this compare to the Licklider era and the crowds that were there? Weren't the crowds worse then? Well, I looked up Iowa's this is paid attendance averages throughout the years. And Iowa had 10 straight years where they were in the top 30 in attendance during Fran's tenure. It was from 2012-13 all the way to I believe 22-23, where they were doing pretty good. But it's fallen off a cliff. So 2023, Iowa, this is the 22-23 season, so 2 seasons ago. Iowa averaged over 12,000 fans a game, paid attendance. Last year, it dropped off to just under 10,000, 9,900 a game. This year, through 13 games, it's dropped off even more, and I don't think this is going to go up with the way this season is going. They're averaging fewer than 9,000 paid fans a game, 8,846 through 13 games. That is the worst number that I could find on record. They are on pace for the worst number on record. The last year of Licklider, which was their lowest attended year on record that I've found, they averaged 9,500 fans a game. So this is on pace to be worse than that. And that's paid attendance. Like you get like actual scan ticket attendance, and it's far, far less than the 8,800 that they're averaging right now. So this is right now on pace to be worse than any Licklider year.
All right, well, on to this. Can you explain to me, because they got a really good recruit.
They did.
Over the weekend. And, I don't know enough about Joshua Lewis, but I do know that if I'm an Iowa fan, I'm excited to get this guy. But it also...
Are you, though? Are you excited? I don't know. I'm really not, because I don't know that he's actually going to come.
Well, that's where I was going with this. Like, it kind of goes in the face of our theory that maybe Fran was checked out and how long is this going to last? And then you get this guy, and it's all quite confusing because this goes against that. This is like, what Fran's telling this guy, I don't know what he's saying to him, but this guy's not going to commit unless he...
Fran's still recruiting. Fran's not, like we talked about last week, Fran's not going to just say, you know what, you're right, I'm going to just forfeit the rest of my contract and walk away. You can move on. Now this is going to have to be Beth Getz making this decision, and I don't care if they won that game. The decision it doesn't change anything. There still needs to be a point here where you figure out a way to move on, even with a 4-star top 50 player who has committed to Iowa. This is a 6'6", 175-pound small forward who had originally committed to South Florida. So he's already committed somewhere else, decommitted, and now going to Iowa over offers from Auburn, Illinois, Marquette, Cincinnati. He was in Iowa City for the Indiana game, so he saw a really good performance and a decent, relatively speaking, a decent crowd. And Iowa now has a top 25 class for next year. I think they're number 22 in the composite rankings. But do we really think that this is going to happen? That Fran is going to still be the coach and that this kid is going to come? Right now I'd put it at no more than 50-50.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know. Part of me, the more I've thought about, I don't have the inside information on Iowa. I do have more than most Iowa fans would think, but I think he's going to have to really get sideways to lose his job in the final. Yeah, in the next month and I really do. The more I think about it,
Really?
Fans don't remember the amount of debt that they have from the COVID thing.
But won't you dig yourself an even deeper hole if
I
you
don't know.
go forward with Fran into next season? Where these attendance figures aren't going to get any better, Williams.
I know, but part of me thinks it's just like, how old is Ferentz? What, you got 2 years of him left?
Almost 70.
Do you got 2 years left? 3 years?
What?
What's the over/under on Ferentz coaching at Iowa? Hear me out. I have a theory.
He could probably go 3 more years.
All right, I have a theory here, and just hear me out.
Okay.
I don't think Iowa fans, for the most part, care about basketball anymore anyways. Okay? I think
you
you're
have
already
to
there.
get them to care. You have to
Hold
get
on.
them back to care.
So we're going into this new revenue share era. Everybody's out money. It's a very much a 2-3 years of transition for everybody because of the back pay and all this stuff. Inside baseball, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you rather, at this point, just go all in on football? That's where all the money's made anyways. Because my point is, you wait out 2 years, until you get the coach you really want for basketball. Because you can turn a basketball program around in a year. Otzelberger took an 0-19 team and took them to the Sweet 16 with a bunch of jabronis, okay? You can do that in basketball. I'm wondering if it's not the worst case, Fran's going to win 50% of his Big Ten games and have us on the bubble. We don't make any money on this sport anyways. I'm just giving you a theory. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Would you rather, as an Iowa fan, just go all in on football?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because
I'd love to hear from our comment section on that.
Look, you get the winter is really long. If all you care about is football and you're going to put all your eggs in that basket and you're just going to say the hell with basketball, my two loves are college football and college basketball. That's above all else in sports. I'm not going to just give up college basketball, give up my love for Iowa basketball and what I know that it can be just because football makes more money and the basketball program's in the shitter right now. I think that, you go way, way, way more into football, but you can still compete in basketball. You can still get some of these fans back. And I think by moving on from this iteration of Iowa basketball, I think you can actually raise more money and at least make up the deficit because you're going to get more people interested again. And there's just so many that are not going to budge until something changes.
Okay.
And as Kirk says, appreciate the theory. He's an Iowa fan. But there's too much pride and belief in Iowa basketball.
And this pisses Iowa State fans off, but I'm always honest with you guys. I'm never going to lie. I grew up an Iowa fan. I cared way more about Iowa basketball when I was a kid than I did Iowa football because of the Raycom, and I could watch every game. This isn't an era where it's like football would half the games you couldn't watch until ESPN2 came around, and then you had to get the old satellite. Remember those days?
Oh yeah. Look, I loved them both, but I'm with you. Basketball, it felt different.
That feels like an entire lifetime ago.
Well, it was. It was a generation ago, at least. And a lot of things have changed. But
there's
I'm telling
no mystique when you go to Carver Hawkeye Arena for a basketball game.
There's not.
Nothing.
But that's the other thing. Beth Getz has, and they talked about this a little bit on Legends and Listeners last week. Is she's in the process of trying to raise money for Carver Hawkeye Arena to make that better. How are you going to get this money if nobody is interested in the men's basketball program? Sure, you've got the women, you've got wrestling, but I really do think in order to move forward in the way that they need to in that athletic department with Iowa men's basketball, they have to go back before they can go forward. And if that means a buyout, so be it.
Yeah, where you're like, we already have this much debt. Let's just swallow a little bit more. The good thing for Iowa, and you're about ready to start getting like $90 million checks every year. Like, so the money thing, like this is where I get so annoyed in college athletics. There's never been a revenue problem. It's always been a spending problem.
Yeah, right.
Right. And that's where all this kind of comes to. But like, as long as they're not total idiots with their finances in the next 10 years, I will be in great shape. But right now they have a ton of debt from COVID, and you have this transition year, and then you would be like, do we want to take on that buyout? But on the scheme of things, with what they make from the Big Ten going forward, the buyout, like on the surface, just really isn't that much.
Yeah, what is it? Around $5 million, something to that
like
effect.
6,
I think I can't remember if it was Lystico or Doctorman on Legends and Listeners. They said, I think it was Chad, said that they can just pay that yearly. They can split it up and pay it out over the next several years. It's not like you have to pay that in a big chunk. So the buyout is not a big thing.
I want to debate this because Chris says Iowa going all in for football would probably get them to 3rd or 4th at best. I know, but that's still probably in the playoff.
Could be, but that's in your best season. But yeah, you're trying to compete here with the last 2 national champions, Ohio State and Michigan. And tough. Now you have Penn State that won playoff games this year. You have Oregon that won the Big Ten championship. You have USC out in LA. Can you really compete with those teams at the very top? I don't know.
I think that you guys are in a similar spot to like when Iowa State was trying to beat Texas. It's like, man, maybe once every 10 years, right? Like, so you got to kind of get yourself in that mindset. But if Iowa could get to a point where, and this is hard in this Big Ten, like where you are 3rd or 4th, like that's pretty good. Like that.
Yeah,
really
a 3rd or 4th place finish would be great. But if that means totally just dive bombing the men's basketball program, I don't think so. And I've seen a lot of people say, I'm way more interested in the women's program right now. And I'm going to support that. Yes, I think that's the key. Now, I think we're going to see a drop-off in that because you had this once-in-a-lifetime player that was the main reason why. And we're seeing some of the lasting benefits of that this year with the attendance. But we're also seeing that you're not nearly as good when you lose the best women's player potentially of all time. And if Iowa doesn't, stay as a perennial top 10 team in women's basketball, those numbers are going to drop off. Like, you're not going to have sold out crowds every game. It's great right now, but I don't know how long that's going to last on the women's side because Caitlin Clark isn't playing for the women's team anymore. Yeah,
they need to win there. And transition year, new coach, no Caitlin. But I see this with the Iowa State women. Like they've had a down year, right? Compared to what we thought they were going to be. They're still a bubble team, but like they started the season in the top 15. Like, I see in our numbers, Cyclone Fanatic, people just have stopped caring. And this is a program that has been supported by its fans forever. They still have people in the stands. But if you care about that right now because the Iowa women have played in 2 straight championship games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, if they're not doing that, will you still be selling it out in 3 years? I don't know. And maybe they will. I don't know. I can't see the future, but
I don't think so.
The reality,
not unless they still make deep runs, and I don't see that.
This is still a business, and it's never going to be more a business thing in the future. And that's not how the economics of all this work either. The wrestling thing for both of these programs is fascinating to me. Like how wrestling is going to pay its athletes in the future. Again, another podcast for another day. We got to wrap it up. Hassel's got to go to work.
I do want to make a distinction because I said that the kid that Iowa got, the 4-star that Iowa got over the weekend, Joshua Lewis, has already decommitted from South Florida. I do want to point out there's a pretty specific reason for that. It's not like he had a change of heart or anything. Let's remember that South Florida had their coach die earlier on. I think it was this season, right before the season started.
Right before the season.
Amir Abdur Rahim. I'm guessing that might have been the main reason why that happened, that he opened it up. So I don't want to suggest that this is a kid that's going to, just change his mind willy-nilly. I was mostly just saying this day and age, anybody can change their mind at any given moment, and we don't even know if Fran McCaffrey is going to be there next season. So,
yeah, and you could say the same thing about any coach. Like, they all have these contracts, but what do they mean, right? Like,
nothing. They don't mean anything other than for them. I mean, they can leave whenever they want.
I mean, I don't think Matt Campbell's – he's clearly not going to the Bears, but he signed a deal till 2032, and the next day it's like, oh, he's interviewing with the Bears.
Did you see the Bears hired Chris Doyle's 28-year-old son as offensive coordinator?
No.
Declan Doyle. He was a student assistant at Iowa, and most recently he was the tight ends coach with the Broncos last year, and 28 years old, he's the offensive coordinator. Now, let's be honest, Ben Johnson's going to be the one calling the play. He's the offensive coordinator. He's the head coach. So this is kind of more of a ceremonial role, but crazy that Declan Doyle has risen this quickly. This isn't the one that played for Baylor, but it is one of Chris Doyle's kids.
I completely forgot to do this, and I feel terrible about it. We need to do our Triple B real quick. Do you have time for
Triple?
Better. Bolder. Built by Kelderman Manufacturing.
You spent all weekend with Kelderman, and you forget the key piece of the program.
Well, and we did all that NFL talk that we don't normally do on this show, and I think it cluttered the program. And I was just going to go because I was with Kelderman, but the Iowa State fans in Tempe, it was truly a very unique experience. That's Colin Murphy. We had all these Iowa State fans harassing him in the bar at the pregame beforehand. It was just a blast, like to be in an opposing arena where it was truly like, I think worst case, like 40-60. And Iowa State fans were no doubt louder than Arizona State fans.
And you made an impression. Like Bobby Hurley talked about it after the game. I saw Pollard retweeted some article from an Arizona newspaper that, I mean, it almost seemed like an HR piece for Iowa State athletics.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really cool. And that's a great trip for the Big 12. Like I hope Arizona State fans like it because they're going to get this a lot, I think, it'll probably be good for them. I did have an Arizona State fan, older timer, say to me, I was talking to him after the game, and he was telling me how much fun it is to be in a conference that cares about basketball. He goes, because we just have never had this. And Kansas played there earlier, and then and he's just like, God, this is so much fun where these games on Tuesday nights actually matter now. So that was cool. I'll go Iowa State fans in Tempe.
And I'm going to just go Curtis Jones, easy, slam dunk, 33 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals. He was hitting threes from the logo. He kept them in that game at halftime. They would have been down by a lot more than 7 without Jones taking it upon himself in that game and really legitimately becoming one of the front runners for Player of the Year in college basketball.
Where you going, Maddie?
Oh, man, we don't have enough time to get into this game, but Kansas's meltdown against Houston at home was just one for the ages. Kansas was up 6 points with like 13 seconds left in overtime.
Let me give you a snapshot of how I experienced this game.
Okay.
We were trying to watch the movie Conclave, which is getting a lot of Oscar buzz, and we rented it online. And I was like, well, this Kansas-Houston game's tight. Let's pause the movie for a second. Let me watch this game. Well, so, it goes to overtime. Mm-hmm. And Kansas has control of it. They're up 6 with the ball. Dude gets fouled, and boom, I turn it off, right back to Conclave. Well, on Apple TV, you get these notifications if you don't turn them off if a game is close. And so, 5 minutes later, I'm sitting there, and this thing pops up on the screen, and it says double overtime thriller. Houston and Kansas head to double overtime. And I was like, wait, hang on a second. That wasn't double. That was the first overtime, right? How the fuck did Houston come back?
Crazy, wasn't it?
Wow.
Kansas missed both free throws. They come down, hit a 3, get a turnover, hit another 3, and send it to double overtime and then win it. Crazy.
Totally agree.
Fog Allen Fieldhouse has lost some of its magic, I guess.
I just don't know how
they don't
good
ever
that
lose
team
those
is.
games. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you, Chris. Like, Houston is so good. But it also is important to point out that 2 Saturdays in a row, Houston's had to win on literally the last second. So they're not.
Sure. Yeah, at
invincible.
UCF the weekend before, right?
Yeah, they're not invincible. Guys, fun show. Thank you. We'll be back at our normal spot on this Thursday, I believe. Nobody's traveling, right? We're good?
I'm not traveling. Yeah.
Okay. Maddie Van Wink's producing, as always. We're presented by our friends at Fareway Meat and Grocery. Yeah, don't forget about that Iowa Everywhere merch store. Look at all that good stuff. I know we're working on some new stuff, too. Signing off from the Channel Seed Studios. I'm in Tucson, back tomorrow. He's Chris Hassel. You've got Overthinking today at noon. Murph and Andy at 1 on Iowa Everywhere.